My name is Chris, and today I'm kicking myself for being so gullible. Welcome to the Vinyl Attack. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. When I was in my mid to late teens, I went through a phase where I was enthralled by the blues. Acoustic, electric, Delta, Chicago, whatever I could get my hands on, I played it non-stop. My good friend Brian had been a fan of the old Mississippi Delta blues and had turned me on to the likes of Robert Johnson, John Lee Hooker, Son House, Sonny Boy Williamson, amongst a host of others. When I stumbled upon the Ralph Macchio classic movie Crossroads, it practically changed my life. Thumbing through the local music newspaper called the Metro Times one day, I noticed someone calling themselves Willie Brown was coming to play a venue on the east side of the town. I'd made mention of that to my friend Brian, who was fairly skeptical, did express interest in making the lengthy drive to catch the show, provided I made sure it was the Willie Brown and not some hack trying to make a buck off the name. So I called the venue to inquire if the Willie Brown playing that weekend was indeed an old Delta blues man who was reported to be friends with the legendary Robert Johnson, and they told me it was. Now, keeping in mind that there was no internet to check and see if this was true, or to find out that Willie Brown had died in 1950, despite being the subject of a major role in my coveted Ralph Macchio movie, Brian and I scraped our money together for gas and started off on our journey. I recall with absolute clarity that midway through the 45-minute trip, quite a distance when you're 17 and 18 respectively, Brian said, "You realize there's no way this is the Willie Brown and we're just wasting our time, right?" To which I replied, "No way. The guy at the bar told me this was him. It's going to be great." I'm sure you can see where this is going, and you might even imagine our collective disappointment when we walked into the place to find a group of middle-aged white people setting up their equipment to be the entertainment for the evening. I quickly went to the bar to ask where Willie Brown was, the Willie Brown I'd called about, the Delta blues legend, and the bartender told me, that's them, the Willie Brown Blues Band. I looked at Brian, and he was solemnly shaking his head. We immediately exited the bar and made the long journey home in almost complete silence. Were it not for the great Coney Island we stopped at for dinner along the way, the trip would have been a complete waste. What does this have to do with revisiting the Angel's Horn turntable? Well, while I'm not a gullible man by any means, I was reminded of this teenage trip of my youth when the second box from the company arrived. But in order for that to make sense, you'll need to hear a little bit about what led up to a second box coming from Angel's Horn in the first place. About a month ago, just after Christmas, I received an email from someone calling themselves Potter from, you guessed it, Angel's Horn, telling me that they had been following my YouTube videos and my video, singular this time, really resonated with them. So much so, it would seem, that they shared it on their social media. They seemed to think that their products would attract my followers and that their Bluetooth vinyl record player, not turntable, but vinyl record player, is one of the best vinyl record players on the market. If I was willing to test and review their product, they would send me a sample. This intrigued me for two reasons. One, this was not the same email address from which I'd heard from before, and it was a Gmail address of all things. And two, if they liked my content so much as they claim, how did they not see my previous video addressing the flaws of their turntables? Sorry, vinyl record players. So being the inquisitive person that I am, I asked just that. However, instead of answering my question about which video of mine they liked so much they felt compelled to share, they instead dove right into the query of their product review. They wanted to know my production costs, presumably what I charge for a review, which of course is nothing. Then they let me know that they wanted a product unpacking video about 5 minutes in duration and to tell them my terms, including video production time, and it would seem that they were rip-roaring and ready to go for a product review. In addition to this, they wanted my WhatsApp contact so we could, and I quote, cooperate for a long time. They mentioned that they have many novel products that can be mailed to me for free. Was the vinyl record player one of these novel products, I wondered? When I circled back to let them know that they hadn't answered my original and only question of which video of mine they liked, they, presumably Potter because none of the emails were being signed at this point, had shared a link to my original top 5 under 500 video from almost a year ago. Without trying to be overly snarky, I responded by letting Potter, or whomever else may be writing at this point, know that I thought my video review of their own turntable would be much more up their alley. For some reason, this really surprised them. They then went on to mention that I am so close to them, whatever that means, that they're a new member of the team and would I like to work with them. Trying to move away from the sarcastic tone I seemed to be headed toward, I asked quite simply if they had any new models that addressed the previous issues I had mentioned in my previous review video. Potter, or whomever, guaranteed that this turntable can solve all the problems in my video and that the sound quality is first rate. Additionally, it would bring surprises to my fans. This last sentence may be quite true, but not in the way that I imagined was intended by its author. This is the part of the video where I tell you that the thoughts of Brian and myself driving to the east side to see a legendary bluesman comes to mind. I was absolutely convinced that this would be the same turntable, just with new window dressing. But I told them that if they were certain that this table solved the aforementioned problems, I would do a review. I even went so far as to inform them that it would be an entirely honest review and no promises were being made as to the tone or outcome. If this was a good product, I would say just that. If it were a bad product, however, well, they clearly stated once more that this product had solved all the problems, and where would I like it shipped? I gave them my address and waited for this new and improved vinyl record player to arrive. 3 days later, I received a tracking number and an additional email telling me that Potter, or whomever, had watched some of my videos again and that the content was very good. The email went on to say that after my consumers, I'm assuming they meant viewers, make purchases, a commission plan can be made for me. It would seem they had designs on cooperating for a long time to build the future of the brand. Their words, not mine. Without trying to spoil the rest of this video, I can assure you that won't be happening. While I don't knock them for trying to get social media ambassadors on board to help them build better brand sales with incentives, this isn't that kind of a channel. I won't be paid for an opinion on any product, whether I like the item or not. I advised them to relax while I found out if their upgrades did in fact handle the problems I had experienced before. A mere 48 hours later, they followed up to see if I'd received the table yet. Their impatience was starting to wear a bit thin with me, and I was left to wonder why they didn't just check the damn tracking number they gave me. I told them I'd make them aware just as soon as the package arrived, and that seemed to be that. Well, until the vinyl record player actually showed up. This time around, they sent me their top-of-the-line package, which included 2 speakers, some thin speaker wire, the Bluetooth vinyl record player itself, along with the necessary power supply. As you can see from the state of this turntable, I didn't even bother to unpack it all the way. While that might not seem like a very professional thing to do, upon inspecting everything closely, this is the same turntable as before, with different dials on top and Bluetooth connectivity. That's it. So in lieu of going through the effort of making and recording a new review video for this vinyl record player, I have instead decided to take the angel's horn approach to problem solving by simply inserting my previous opinions from my original video with a new filter. So, what did I find troubling about this table? I'll be listing the problem areas as factually and objectively as I can. You'll find that the housing for the electronics is a lower grade feeling plastic cover. Coming back to the top is a very heavy iron platter. While this is touted as having perfect stability and rotation on the website, I just found it noisy. It rings like a bell when I tap on it and resonates for longer than you would think. When the platter is spinning and I touch my finger to the side to slow its rotation between tests, it sounded like a train coming to stop. Keeping inertia and balance in mind, you can't simply start adding drum head mufflers or tape and foam and expect a consistent speed during playback. Then again, when I took a reading using an app on my phone to check for speed and fluctuation and while on Flutter, I'm not sure that the performance would have been much worse if you had it at a dampening. The table ran almost a full percent fast, which is adjustable if you remove the plastic cover and take a small screwdriver to the appropriate holes in the motor, but the bigger problem was the wow and flutter. With variations at over a 0.5%, the HP002 simply couldn't offer stable audio. The motor was quite noisy while in use, and this noise did have some bleed through in the quieter parts of the test records I played. If I lowered the weight even to the entry number of 2.5 grams to help abate this fear, the anti-skate would pull the arm back and the stylus would often come right off the table. With all the aforementioned items, it is with regret that I cannot recommend purchasing this turntable. My follow-up email to Potter, or whomever, upon discovering that this was the same mechanical workings as before, let them know that I was disappointed to see that nothing had changed from the last turntable. The addition of Bluetooth connectivity and speaker inputs didn't mask the glaring errors that I discussed in my original review, the review that they said they watched and used to correct these problems. I'd stated in my original review video that I'd planned on staying away from reviews that would seemingly trash a product just for the sake of doing so, as that's not the type of reviewing I enjoy, nor the reputation I'd like to obtain. In this case, however, I feel that you should all be made aware that this turntable and this company simply don't meet the standards of which I would recommend anyone to use. They are either ignorant or worse yet cognizant of their shortcomings, but don't care enough to be truthful when asked about their products. In my opinion, this is the worst kind of company to deal with because of their nice-looking website, availability on major retailers like Amazon, and many uneducated or influenced reviews, making for a confusing and misleading landscape to newer members of the hobby. Even to those more experienced who might be looking for an affordable solution as a gift or a secondary table. I am as disappointed in them as I am embarrassed that I thought they might have actually listened and made the changes for the better. Shame on us both. But moving on to something that does not mislead anyone is today's sponsor, Skillshare. As a YouTube content creator myself, I understand the need for ads to help bolster the financial support necessary to run a show. But nothing has been more irritating lately than the amount of random commercials placed right in the middle of an episode. This is why I don't have ads in the middle of my YouTube videos. So, rather than stuff a meaningless ad down your throat, I'd much prefer to show you something that I like and that you might actually like as well. Enter Skillshare. If you're not familiar with Skillshare, they're an online learning community that offers thousands of inspiring classes to curious and creative people alike. If you're like me, and I know I am, learning new things all the time is almost as much of a passion as hi-fi systems and record collecting. I recently switched editing software to DaVinci Resolve, and the multitude of classes available on Skillshare help make that happen. I'm now taking a new class on color grading by Fred Trevino, a gentleman who has color graded over 40 major motion pictures. These are the kinds of instructors you can expect to find on this platform. Skillshare isn't just for people who want to be public content creators either. If you're into photography, illustration, creative writing, even marketing or productivity, Skillshare has a class for you taught ad-free by creators who really know their stuff. And right now, if you're one of the first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description below, you'll get a 1-month free trial. Not 7 days, not even 14 days, which is their standard, but a free 1-month trial to check out all the classes and topics Skillshare has to offer. So as you're on your way down to the comments section to tell me what you think about this debacle that is known as Angel's Horn, make sure you click on the link in the description box to take advantage of this offer, and thanks to Skillshare for making it possible. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to pack this vinyl record player back in its box and ship it back. I just don't have any use for it. Thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thanks to you for stopping by, and I look forward to next time.